McNuggets, you got to do this Cavs.
Let's switch a little Cavs. We have we're going to run through a couple of these things quick. Let's start with the proposed trade by CBS, then let's get to Jason.
Yeah, because we have Josina Anderson coming up at 12:30, and she's going to
we got to do top 5 too. So
okay, so let's start with the trade. Yesterday on CBS, their digital platform, Avery Johnson, who coached Collin Sexton at Alabama in college, came on, and basically the question to Avery was, and they do this with all the teams, but for this segment, it was the trade the Sixers need to make this offseason. And he was all in on they need to get Colin Sexton. But in his answer, he said something that was, to me, very telling. He said that Colin is done in Cleveland. He was definitive about it.
Wow.
He said that Garland's going to get the extension and that Colin's time in Cleveland is done. And what jumped out of that answer, to me, is he has a great relationship with Colin, and they might think that they're talking. And he was just so definitive when he said it. I was kind of taken back by it. He said Colin's time in Cleveland is done. So it got us to thinking, okay, 76ers. Who from the 76ers would you want in return for Colin Sexton?
I mean, Tobias Harris?
That's exactly
right. That's the guy.
Yeah, first of all,
that's it.
I don't love their roster. I don't think it's a good match. But if we are drilling this down, it has to be Philly. Then I would agree it's Tobias Harris.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know who else on there I'd want.
Joel Embiid for Chetty, straight up.
Okay, I would do that.
Tobias can play a little bit. He's a good
player.
And I think Philly would be open to moving him. He is a good player.
What
He's got
do
some
they gain
length.
from that? Why would they want to make that switch?
I think he can play the 3 a little bit better than Lauri Markkanen, who they're really trying to shoehorn into that spot. I think Tobias he's still not a natural 3, but I think he's a little bit better of a fit there. So that's really what you're doing is you're trying to unlog the jam you have. Is that?
And by the way, when Tobias Harris was in high school and I was working part-time in New York, he used to call me overnights on the radio station.
That's why you want him.
Well,
you want to reunite.
Give him a call and see if he
would
wants
tell
to come
me
to
about
Cleveland.
his like high school basketball.
Really?
No kidding.
That's interesting.
The reality is, when he went to the NBA, I had totally forgotten this, and some guy who had been producing for me was like, Bull, don't you remember Tobias Harris used to call you and tell you about his basketball in Long Island?
Wow. When he was like in high school, he would call?
He would call.
That's so cool.
And I wasn't even full-time, so it's not like he could call me the same time every week.
What was that kid up to in high school?
I don't know.
He's like listening to sports
Self-promoter.
Yeah. Probably.
Didn't he enroll in Tennessee early, Bull? Like, didn't he skip his senior year of high school?
I don't
and enroll
remember,
in
to be
Tennessee
honest. I didn't remember any of it.
earlier?
Somebody had to remind me of this recently.
So this may or may not have happened.
No, it did. It did. Once he told me about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember him calling, but I didn't remember it was, I didn't follow it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So is the problem with the Sixers they just don't have depth on their bench and stuff like that, and that's why they're looking to do something like this?
Well, I think I tend to agree with Avery. I think he would be a good fit from Philly's side, although Harden, I don't know how Daryl Morey can be as intelligent as he is, and he keets getting snookered by.
But Jason, you
Harden.
think Colin Sexton's going to stay? So that kind of, did you?
I think and this kind of leads into, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. I'm really fascinated to see what the contract is that Colin winds up getting because he fired his agent. His agent was he had Zion Williamson's agent, and didn't get the contract he wanted last year. Fired him and went and got Rich Paul. And Rich obviously was one of the biggest power broker agents in the NBA, but he also represents Darius. So it's really kind of fascinating where this is going. Avery's right. Darius is getting a max. Like 601. Sure. They can negotiate at 6 o'clock, 601. Darius is getting a max. Colin's a lot more complicated. And what even further muddies the waters here is the Cavs would like to, it's not a sure thing, but they would like to stay out of the luxury tax one more year. And try and once you break that seal and you go into the tax, you're not coming back out. And where that matters is down the road. It doesn't necessarily matter right now, but it's the repeat offender clause that kicks in 4 years down the road, and it's real. And Dan Gilbert doesn't mind spending. He'll absolutely spend. We know that. But the repeat offender clause even hurts Dan.
Becomes more punitive.
Yes, it becomes unbelievably more punitive to where even he blinked when they were a repeat offender team toward the end of the championship window. So you're trying to push that off as long as you can and kick the can down the road. Well, so they're going to be right up against the tax line this year. And if Collins wants 18, 20 million, personally, I'm not giving that to him if I'm the Cavs. I'm not giving him 20 million a year to be a bench player. So that's where something like this then
What would you give him? How high would you go?
I would keep it 15 and under.
Yeah.
And I know that's the going rate in NBA sixth men. And
Why do I get the sense he's not interested in that?
I don't think. Well, I don't necessarily think that he is. He's been a starter his entire career. I think he probably wants to be paid like his numbers indicate, which is what I was screaming for years. Like, this is not good. They've got him in the wrong role. This isn't the role he's meant for. He's putting up a lot of points on a bad team, and now it's time to pay the bill for all that, for all the propaganda of all the Colin stuff and everything else, which I just thought was outrageous. Well, now it's time to pay the bill on some of that stuff.
Right.
So I don't know where this is going to go. It is fascinating that Avery is so adamant that he's not coming back. I think that the Cavs want him back if it's the right situation, if it's the right deal, if it's the right money that we're talking about. But I don't know, with Rich as his agent, I don't know that we're going to get there. And I do think this is going to be a really long negotiation. Whereas Darius is going to be quick, I think this Collin thing could drag out into the summer. We saw it with Lauri Markkanen last year. When did that go down? It was like August. By the time they came to terms with Chicago and the sign and trade and everything else, I think Collin could be the same thing where this is really kind of extended. This is not going to end quickly.
You are right that his numbers are artificially boosted by the fact that he wasn't on a real bad
He's on a
team.
terrible team.
It is
Let someone else pay that bill.
It's somewhat reminiscent of, remember when the Cavs had Ricky Davis and he was averaging like 26 points.
Shooting at the wrong
Someone
basket.
had to
Shooting
score.
the wrong basket. And I remember when we got LeBron, I remember Ricky Davis, this is how delusional that guy was. I remember him saying, I think that he's going to blend really well into my game.
Yeah, that is
He
delusional.
said something like that. Like, he's like, it'll be good to have a little extra score and help behind me in
my
LeBron
goodness.
James.
Ricky
But, like,
Davis.
he had to score. Somebody has to score
Yeah.
on that team, and that was him.
But the view around the league of Collin is exactly what I'm describing as a sixth man.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I'm really curious to see how this contract thing goes.
Did he fire his agent because his agent was telling him the bad news and he didn't want to hear it?
Well, normally you fire your agent because you don't get the contract you want.
Yeah.
And
so that
you
would
go-
probably be a
Well, wait.
byproduct
Yeah.
of your agent telling you you're a sixth man.
I'm looking at Tobias Harris's contract. He's making $38 million next year.
He's got 3 years left on his deal, I think.
It's 2. Yeah, 38 for next year, and then 41 the year after that.
So now you're probably bringing Kevin Love into a trades in that scenario.
right.
Spend
And
Dan
swapping
Gilbert's
out
money.
that.
He makes that on Keno in a weekend, right? Right?
He
Who
sold the
cares?
casinos. He's out of the casino business.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean,
This
how
shows where I'm
much
at.
better is Tobias Harris as an overall player than Colin Sexton?
They're two totally different players. I
Yeah.
mean, Collin is an undersized combo guard.
Right.
And I think he's got a role on this team. Like, as hard as I've been on him, he could play in the
Yeah.
NBA. There were times last year where I was watching the game going, they could really use Collin right
Yep.
now. Just
Yeah.
someone
Yeah,
who
sure.
could
Especially late in the year.
give him the ball, get out of his way, let him go get a basket.
Yeah.
And so there's a role for that, but it comes with a certain price. And that's where I think if there is going to be a breakdown, that's where the breakdown is going to occur. Tobias is a completely different player. He's 6'7", 6'8" range. He can do more things on the floor, different things on the floor. He's, than what Collin can. Not a terrible three-point shooter. He can shoot the three. So we'll wait and see.
He's
how
a
this
better
goes.
all-around player.
I would rather have Tobias
Yeah,
Harris.
yeah.
on my
You've had
team.
some time to do some intel on the Cavs draft picks. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, you've been poking around. What have you found out?
Yeah, so, Ochai Agbaji obviously was the pick, and it was a little bit surprising only from the fact that he was a 4-year guy. And we were talking about Malachi Branham on the show. He was there. He was available to them. And they sort of passed on the upside. This was a very clear pivot in sort of the Cavs draft philosophy of pivoting on the guy who maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years down the road could be a better player.
Yeah.
And taking the guy who's better right now. A couple reasons for that. Number one, they're not sure they're going to have the time, court time, or time to devote to letting a guy grow. They need someone who can come in and fill a need for them right now on this team. And they feel like Agbaji can do that. And the way it was sort of described to me is, if you think of when Kyle Korver was here, and I'm not comparing Agbaji to Kyle Korver, who's one of the best three-point shooters the NBA's ever
Right.
seen, but just some of his screen actions and the way that he could catch and shoot and the way that he comes off screens and shoots the three and some of the actions that they could run with him, they haven't really had the opportunity to do that. And they have willing passers on this team. Darius Garland's a great passer. Jared Allen, I think, is a good passer for a big man. Mobley sees the floor well. So they have guys who can facilitate. They just need the guy on the other end who can knock down the shots, catch and shoot type guy. Dylan Windler was supposed to be that guy. He just hasn't panned out. It's one of the few picks really that they've missed on. I don't even know if you could call it a miss. He just hasn't been healthy.
Right.
And so they just feel like Agbaji can really fill that role. They know what they're getting with him. Best player on the national championship team. He's a good player. Is his ceiling as that of, no, it's not, or else he wouldn't have stayed 4 years in college and he would have gone in the top 10. So, but you know what you're getting with him, and you're getting a knockdown shooter. which this team really sort of needs.
You know what I don't like there is whenever I see this, I don't like that he's playing technically small forward probably for us, so you can put him at the 2.
I think he's a 2.
But regardless, I don't like him seeing like eye to eye with Commissioner Silver.
But Adam's tall.
I know he's tall, but
Adam's tall.
I just looked it up. He's listed at 6'3". Who knows if he's faking
Right.
that? In
Right.
shoes, we don't know. But I want my NBA draft picks to be towering over the commissioner and him awkwardly looking up at him and saying congratulations. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like him seeing arm to arm like that. I want him to be a little taller.
He's probably more of a 2 than he is a 3.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be this knockdown. He's supposed to be a good defender. Supposed to be this knockdown. How are you going to get that shot off if you're my height, frankly,
Well-
in the NBA?
And he's
But
not much of a passer.
No, you're not looking at him to be a playmaker on the wing. No, you're looking at him to come in and make shots. He's the 3-point shooter that they need.
Yeah.
And again, it's really sort of how do you get him open? It's the actions that you run. It's coming off screens and pin downs and
Yeah.
that sort of thing that you think you can get him free and open, get him open looks in this system.
Overall, any other intel on the other guys in the class?
They liked the Frenchman, I think. I can't ever pronounce his name, but he was off the board.
We could just call him the Frenchman.
The Frenchman's fine.
Frenchie. When-
Put that on the back of his jersey, actually.
And I think sort of the way the board fell to them helped make their decision a little bit easier because outside of Branham, I don't know if there was another. They had to go to the 2-3 slot. Like that's where they were going to go, a 2/3. And the fact that Branham was really the only other one on the board in that range of, okay, are we taking upside or are we drafting for right now? And when we were on the show, that trade came down where they picked up the 49th pick when we were on the show, and I said, okay, clearly they want to bundle those and try and move up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I thought after the show, or they're trying to get back to the bottom of the first round. Turns out neither one of those were true. They just liked the price. They got that pick, that 49 pick for I think it was $1.75 million they paid for it.
Right.
And so they were able to take Isaiah Mobley, Evan's brother, on that. He's probably going to be on a 2-way contract next year. The other 2 guys they took in the second round will be overseas stashes. And they really didn't want to move back up into the first round, the bottom of the first round. They say they had opportunities to do that. They didn't really want to because they're high on Ricky Rubio. They want to bring Rubio back.
I love hearing that.
I'm glad. I do too. I'm really glad to hear
There's
that.
complications with that.
When will he be ready? November,
Yeah, that's the thing.
December?
January.
Oh, January.
So that's part of the complication.
Yeah, that's
is
tough.
You need to get by for half a year without a real true backup point guard. It's Collin if he's here. It's Karis LeVert trying to hold that role, and that's really not his role.
well,
Yeah.
maybe it's Collin, and then they move him halfway
Yeah.
through the season when
I mean, that's
when
early
Rubio.
season anyway. Does it matter that
January?
much?
It's not that early. It's about halfway through the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss
kind
about
of
half
set
the
a
year.
tone by then too.
And also, I think you need to be realistic about what you're getting in Ricky. This is 2 massive knee injuries, 2 serious knee
Yeah,
injuries he's
it
had.
is.
Yep.
He was playing out of his mind last year. It's the best ball of his career. Are you
Great.
really? Can you count on that level of play? I'm not
But
sure.
I
That
want him
you
in
can.
here, even from a coaching perspective, still with these young guards. I know might not be worth that money in that roster spot, but I think that he's a big reason that they actually clicked last year.
They were cooking
I think
teams
they,
when he
think
was
about
out there.
that. Like I think he taught them a lot in a short period of time. It looked like that to me. It looked like they matured pretty quickly.
He helped them. He got the ball moving, and he helped them play the way that they need to play. But the point I made was, your whole season should not come crashing down because
No.
of Ricky
Sure.
freaking Rubio.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
That's fair.
so let's take a step back here and see what else this. But to close the loop on why they didn't move up to the bottom of the first round, if they bring Ricky back, and if Collin comes back, you're at 14 guaranteed contracts. They didn't want to add a 15th. They want to have a little bit of
That's
roster
smart. That
flexibility.
makes sense.
Tell me
That's
about
why they didn't want to come up to the bottom.
Isaiah,
of the first round.
though, is he here? He's here because he's his brother and
Oh, I'm
he's here
sure
to be
that's-
friendly and hang out.
I'm
that's
sure
what
that's
this
a
is.
lot to do with
He
it,
would
yeah.
not be on this team right now if Evan Mobley were not his brother.
He'd be in the NBA. Would he be on this team? No, I'm sure Evan's presence here has
You
a
know I
lot to
love
do with it.
because I love that my boys are nerds, and I love that he brought his brother, who is also a nerd. They're running wind sprints somewhere together right now.
I'm sure it wasn't a situation where Mobley was like, "You better draft."
No,
my brother."
no.
They just probably did it.
No, but-
and why not?
Yeah, why not?
If
Because
they're
at that point, it's a total crapshoot anyway.
Bring his dad in
if-
too.
Look how
I
young
say.
he is. I mean, we forget how young.
Yeah.
Go back to when you were a teenager, when you were 20 years old.
Now he's
Yeah.
got his brother
What
here.
the hell? I mean, now he's at least got somebody that he
mean,
trusts implicitly
Yep.
with him.
If they're burning a 2-way contract on him, they think there's a little bit of
Right.
game. He
Yeah.
can play
Yeah.
a little bit in there. They're
I
not.
mean,
They're
Well,
not going to
Brad
hand
said
out.
that he watched him at USC and he said this kid's a player.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he would play somewhere in the NBA, yeah, but